Okay, so I'm starting on number 16. I'm thinking this is going to be my last video for this review sheet. So I have this given to me. It is given to me in factored form. So right now I can go through, do the zero product property, and get my roots. I need you to show me 2 equals 0 and show me that you know that that's not true. I need you to show me x equals 1 and x equals 3. So those are my roots, x equals 1 and 3. My page is a little weird right now. My graph did not show up here, and I couldn't find an easy way to insert a graph, so I'm just going to draw a graph on mine. Yours has a graph on it. It should be okay. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to draw to 3 and 1. Those are my x-intercepts, which leaves me with my line of symmetry here in the middle at x equals 2. That's going to be my x of my vertex, and I'm going to plug in to get the y of my vertex. So I'm going to use 2 times 2 minus 1. So all I did was plug that 2 that I got from the line of symmetry into the x of my factored form. I'm going to take the 2 minus 3. I get 2 times 1 times 1, which gives me 2. So now I have my vertex. So my vertex is going to be at 2, 2. I do need to find my y-intercept. That means I need to make a box. I have x minus 1 times x minus 3. I get x squared. I get negative 3x. I get negative 1x. I get negative positive 3 because I had 2 negatives multiplying. Okay. And here I'm going to go through and I'm going to take this and make it x squared minus 1x minus 3x minus 3. This gives me x squared minus 4x minus 3. I'm going to multiply by 2. I get 2x squared minus 8x minus 6. So I get my y-intercept. Oh, this was positive, this was positive, this was positive. I get my y-intercept is positive 6, which is going to be way up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I'm looking at my graph, and right now I'm freaking out because I know I did something wrong. So I'm going to go back and just double check everything. So I got my roots of 3 and 1, which is perfect. I got my middle line, my line of symmetry at x equals 2, which is perfect. I took that 2, I plugged it into my factored form. I got 2 minus 1 equals 1. And I got 2 minus 3 equals negative 1, so that should have made a negative 2. So instead of being here, that dot should be here. And I did know my graph was concave up from the start because it didn't have any negatives in front of it. So I should get this U shape. It is okay if you made a mistake somewhere in your problem. You have the ability to go back and check yourself. I know you do. I know that that's very stressful. I know that it looks like you've lost all hope and all of that. But I'm telling you that there are little tricks that you know. So like you know that this is a concave up graph. So you should have known that right here, that vertex doesn't work for you. Okay, you guys can do it. So I'm moving downwards. Right now I have this given to me in standard form. From standard form, the gift is that last number, the y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. From the start, I'm always looking to factor out a greatest common factor if I can. I have one here. It's a 3. So I'm going to take a 3 out of everything. When I do that, I get x squared plus 4x plus 3. Then I'm going to use my box and the X, or the diamond if you prefer calling it the diamond. And I'm going to multiply to 3 and add to 4. It's important that you notice that that 3 multiplies by the 1 in front, not by that 3 on the outside of the parentheses. So 3 and 1 multiply to 3 and add to 4, so I get 3x, 1x. X squared goes here, 3 goes on the bottom. I get x squared plus 4x plus 3. Wait, that's not what I wanted. That's standard form. That doesn't help me. Let's try again. Gotta get the outside of my box. So I get x times x, I get 3, I get 1. So I get x plus 3, I get x plus 1, and that 3 comes all the way down in front. I'm going to set this equal to 0 to get my x-intercepts or my zeros. So I get 3 equals 0. You need to tell me that's irrelevant. I get x plus 3 equals 0, so I get x equals 3. And I'll get x plus 1 equals 0, so I'll get x equals 1. These are negative. So I get x equals negative 3, negative 1. Okay. So I have negative 3, negative 1 on my graph. And now I have to find my axis of symmetry, which is at negative 2. Okay. You would get marked down for telling me it was just at negative 2. You need to say x equals negative 2. That's the x of my vertex, so I put that negative 2 there. And I'm going to plug that negative 2 in for my x's of my factored form. I get 3, 1, negative 1. So I'm going to get negative 3 as my answer there. And so I get 1, 2, 3, negative 3. I can reflect my y-intercept, and I can draw my U-shape. It is, in fact, concave up. We can double check that with the fact that it was positive in the front from the beginning. Okay, so we're getting to the very end. This is our last question. This is important. There will be something like this on your test, pretty close to how it's asking you here. So it says a cannonball is shot from an initial height of 112. Hey, initial height means y-intercept. They use time instead of x here, so we can change these to x's because I know lots of you hate the t's. You don't like how they look like plus signs. Okay. I apologize, but my writing is a little worse than usual today. My pen broke during class. So, I'm going to go through and I'm going to find a GCF, because that's the first thing I'm going to do. Plus, these were really big numbers. Like, that should have been a huge hint that you're going to find a greatest common factor. Since the front was negative, I am going to divide by a negative, so I don't have to deal with that negativity. But you should write down that this should be concave down so that you remember. So I get negative 16 x squared. Again, I'm using my calculator. 96 divided by 16 gives me negative 6 x. 112 divides by 16 7 times. It was a positive, now it's going to be a negative because I did divide by that negative number. So now I get my x in my box, multiplies to negative 7, adds to negative 6. This is much better numbers than what I had before. So I get negative 7, positive 1. So I'm going to get negative 16. In my box, I'm going to get x squared, negative 7, negative 6x, positive 1x. Sorry, this is not a 6. Negative 7x, positive 1x. This is x and x always. X times negative 7, or x to make it negative 7x is times negative 7. X times 1 makes that 1x. I can double check myself. 1 times negative 7 makes negative 7. So I get x plus 1, x minus 7. Done so. That's factored form. So now I need to use the zero product property to get my x-intercepts. So I'm going to set this equal to 0. I get negative 16 equals 0. You're going to tell me that's stupid. You know that that's not true. I get x equals negative 1, and I get x equals positive 7. Okay. From there, I'm going to graph these. Okay. So it's asking you to use appropriate scales and labels. And I'm going to go ahead and pause for just a second. Okay, guys, sorry about that. Custodian came in to clean the room. So we have x-intercepts at negative 1 and 7. We're going to go ahead and put those on our graph. I'm going to make this my y-intercept, my y-axis. This is going to be my x-axis. And I get negative 1. I'm going to get positive 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. My x-intercept, or my y-intercept was at 112, so I'm going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 112. So that is going to be about where my point goes. I'll go back in and draw that line. Okay. And I'm now looking for my line of symmetry. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come inwards. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. That puts my line of symmetry right here. Okay. So that's at 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to say x equals 3 is my line of symmetry. I'm going to have to plug that in. So I get 3 plus 1 and 3 minus 7. So I'm going to get negative 16 times 4 times negative 4. And I'm going to use my calculator. I'm going to do negative 16 times 4 times negative 4. I get positive 256. So I'm going to put 256 on my graph. 20, 30, 40, 50. And it'll be way up here somewhere. Okay. So I didn't use the best places that I could have used. I probably could have gone by 20s instead and gotten a better looking graph because it all would have been on that graph. But that's okay. You're just practicing. What is the maximum height the cannonball reached? That's 256. When does it reach that height? That's at 3 seconds. This is feet. How long is it until the cannonball reaches the ground? That's 7 seconds. Okay. That's what my graph looks like. They have all of this. Okay. So you do have answers available to you. I did do all that work on the review sheet over the past couple of videos. And you are prepared for next week's test. If you're looking for more or extra practice, I did give you guys a couple of different sheets. So I gave out this sheet of factoring trinomials. Okay, so it looks like this. I did give out a sheet that says the greatest common factor, and I did give out one more that said solving quadratics. So you should have all of those available to you. There will be answer keys for you to check with on Monday or on Tuesday before you test, but I don't recommend leaving it till Tuesday. And that is it.